Welcome to a special edition vid in which we will be taking a look at the big deck format, specifically building one. I have included a link to my list below in the video description. Also, take a look at the rules of big deck video before watching this video if you're unfamiliar with how to play the format. Still wanting to play the cards in your deck after they rotate out of standard but don't quite fit in your modern or commander deck? Cards just sitting in your trade binder gathering dust? Why not throw them in a big deck? Building a big deck is easier than you may think and is similar to building a cube. Other than lands, there are only a few other cards you might either want to add or leave out of your big deck. Like a cube, you only need one copy of each card in the deck. Tastes play a big part in the design as you're going to want to include all the cards you've always wanted to play but didn't make the cut in other decks. Another benefit of big deck is that you can include cards that are banned in other formats. Cards like these tend to get banned because they are either too powerful on their own or combo easily with another card. In big deck, the card pool is so large that it makes finding combo pieces difficult, even with tutor effects. Players search only one pile at a time, so there's no guarantee that you will find the combo pieces you are looking for. It's recommended that instead of using combo pieces, try including good standalone cards instead. Include all your personal favorites, but keep in mind there are notable cards you should avoid in your big deck. Those will be discussed later. Big decks are extremely customizable, so build one that matches your personality. If you are an aggro player who likes playing quick games, include more creatures in your big deck. If you are more of a control player who likes playing longer games, include fewer creatures. Don't worry if your card pool is not vast and not ultra powered. One of the best things about the big deck is that it is even. Since you and your opponents all draw from the same card pool, you are all as likely to draw the best cards. It is best as a multiplayer format with players teaming up to deal with threats that emerge on the table. Another unique mechanic to big deck is the way in which players get their mana. Players have the option to play cards from their hands as the actual cards with the spell's normal effects, or as a land, in which case the card taps for whatever color mana can be found in that card's color identity. This is why it's a good idea to pack your big deck with lots of multicolored cards. These cards are invaluable at the start of the game when players are trying to set up their mana bases. Care should be taken in selecting which multicolored spells go into your big deck. A card like Demigod Revenge can be difficult to cast since each player is essentially playing a 5-color deck. Early on, it can be wise to play a powerful card like Nicol Bolas as a land, especially if you draw no other gold cards in your starting hand. Be careful about loading too much of any single color in your big deck. If you run lots of blue cards and not as many red cards, the few red cards you do draw will end up being lands almost every game and never being cast. Try to run an even number of all monocolored spells if possible. Certain cards don't work in this format, or work way too well. Cards like Sensei's Divining Top seem to break the format. Top allows players to rearrange the piles any which way they want, basically stacking not only your deck, but your opponent's as well. To make things more even, Top can be replaced by another card that has a similar effect, but is nowhere near as absurd. Sphinx of Jawara Isle lets you always know what is on top, but doesn't let you rearrange the piles, making it more managed. Rampant growth effects can work in the big deck if you decide that all monocolored cards in the piles are basic lands, and gold cards are non-basic lands. This may slow down the games with frequent land searching, especially if players are looking to take the best cards out of the piles to use as lands so that no one else can draw them. Instead of growth effects, you can run more permanent-based ramp spells like the Signets and Druids. Cards like Genesis Wave are tricky. One of the reasons Genesis Wave is so effective is that it can put massive amounts of land onto the battlefield, but since there is no land in the big deck, it is significantly weakened. One ramp spell our list does include is Primeval Titan, just because he is so much fun and there is no specificity about land type. Unexpected Results is another card with an effect unique to big deck when you choose if the card is a land or not. Be careful of running tutor effects that put cards on top of the library, since typically your opponent will have the opportunity to draw those cards before you will. Try to include more instant speed tutors so that you can get these cards during your draw step on your turn. There is no specific amount of cards required for a big deck, but given the name of the format, it is advisable to use a lot. But buying that many sleeves of all the same type can be a pain. Also, there is no specific amount of piles needed, but 5 generally works well, with roughly 100 cards in each. This helps cards with search effects. You don't want to run cards with search effects if there aren't enough targets for them. You don't need an even amount of all card types, just try to include many of each. Cards like Epic Experiment have the potential of hitting even more instants and sorceries, since there are no lands in the big deck to get in the Experiment's way. This is where deck synergy comes into play and should be kept in mind when building your deck. That's it. Let me know if you have any questions about big deck building. Check out these big deck gameplay videos, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.